divine wisdom in the flow of life. And so where Derek spoke last week about aligning with the divine wisdom, allowing us to wake up to who we truly are, we have to think, well, then what? What do we do next? Okay, so we are waking up to who we truly are, but then there's all that old baggage that we still have from our past life, our lives that we've lived, that all of that stuff, all of those habits and belief systems and beliefs about myself, beliefs about the world around me, beliefs about life itself, beliefs about God, all of those things are still in my life. So what do I do next? Well, so that's why this week we are talking about letting go and rising to the occasion. So our centering thought is from Joseph Campbell. I love this quote: "We must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us." And what an important lesson to learn. Just going to turn that off and maybe move this out of the way a bit. There we go. So my talk today is the wisdom to let go and rise. I'm going to go back there. Normally we think about when we let go in the physical sense, we let go of something, chances are we're going to fall. In the spiritual sense, when we let go, we rise. When we let go, we're letting go of what has anchored us to our smallness, what has anchored us to our only humanness. That's a term that I got from Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, who does the absolute word that we're going to hear a little bit later. So the idea that when we let go of our only humanness, that part of ourselves that is our ego mind, our ego self, that we naturally are lifted up into a higher consciousness, into a higher mind. But before we can get to that higher mind, we really do have some letting go to do. So I wanted to just presence the fact that today is Easter, but it's not just Easter. This month, we're right in smack dab in the middle of the month of Ramadan, which is the Islamic month of fasting. And the Quran states that fasting was prescribed for believers so that they may be conscious of God. Isn't that interesting, that it's a letting go of something, fasting, taking away some of the creature comforts of life in order that we can be conscious of God, so that we can rise into that consciousness of the divine. Now, the prevailing belief among Muslims is that it was at the last 10 days of Ramadan that the Quran was written. And so this is what comes from that release of the creature comforts. What comes from that is a deepening into the consciousness of God so that we can be that light in the world that can bring the teachings like the Quran into the world, right? And so then Passover is also this past week. We're right in the middle of Passover as well. And Passover, which is sometimes called the Feast of Unleavened Bread, commemorates the Israelites' exodus from Egypt and their transition from slavery into freedom. Now you might think slavery is a really easy thing to let go of, but the reason why they called it the Feast of Unleavened Bread was because when the Israelites were called to leave, they had to leave right then. They knew that the soldiers were going to come for them. So they were told, get out now. The Pharaoh says, go, get out now. And they had to just pick everything up. They didn't have time for their bread to rise. And so they took their dough and left and had unleavened bread. And that is, so that's why they call it the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so this is one of our beautiful spiritual tools where we let go of something, where we have to drop everything and move where Spirit wants us to move. Move into the fuller expression of who we are, from slavery to freedom. Move into our freedom. So what a beautiful metaphor that is. And of course, it's also Easter weekend, and so I wanted to bring that in a little bit as well. So the first verse there is from Luke 23, and this is from the Aramaic Bible. And Yeshua called out in a loud voice, and he said, "My Father, unto your hands I lay down my spirit." Sometimes it said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit," or "I commend my spirit. I give it to you. I'm giving you my spirit. I'm letting go and giving it all up to you." And then the next one is, "But the angel answered and said to the women, 'Do not be afraid, for I know that you are seeking Yeshua, who was crucified. He is not here, for he is raised, just as he said.'" There's a beautiful metaphor in the Easter story that is as true for us now as it has always been. And it's true from many different spiritual perspectives. So I've got a little quote in there as well from Tammy. "You're always passing through uncomfortable territory on the way to expansion." I would say the crucifixion was uncomfortable territory. That was definitely something not very comfortable to pass through on the road to expansion. But this is something that we are seeing. It's a part of the human idea of what we have to do in life. This is a part of our deep culture and our deep belief system as human beings, that we let go of something in order to become something more, in order to grow, that we always have to let go of something. So there are things in the natural world that show us this, like a snake, for instance. When a snake is growing, it has to shed its skin in order to grow, in order to allow itself to be its bigger self. Of course, a caterpillar has to dissolve itself in the chrysalis in order to become the butterfly. A husk of a seed has to break in order for a plant to grow from it. In all of those things, don't you think that in some way it feels like a catastrophic breakdown of reality? That something has to break, something has to be released in order for the new reality to arise. This is the way of things in our natural world, and it's the way of things in the human psyche as well. And we see this even in our own lives. Birth is a letting go of the womb in order to experience a greater life. Death is a letting go of the body in order to experience the oneness with spirit. And then rebirth, coming back into life, if that's part of our belief system, is a letting go of the oneness with spirit in order to experience the separation, the belief in separation, so that we can be on that road to return and expansion. Birth, death, rebirth. The breaking of the seed. The caterpillar becoming the butterfly. This is who we are. And this is a teaching that comes into many different spiritual teachings as well. We got in the Upanishads, there's a beautiful line that says, "Renounce and enjoy." Renounce. Let go of those things that aren't serving you, and enjoy. Bring yourself up in joy. Rise into your joy. And then we have in the Course in Miracles, one of my favorite lines in the Course in Miracles says, "Begin again." You know what that means? That implies that something has ended. It's not just saying, just keep going, just keep swimming, like, what is that in Finding Nemo? Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. It's not that. It's saying, begin again, meaning that something has ended, you let it end, and then you begin again. That is the truth that is taught in all spiritual teachings, that we let go of something so that we can rise into who we are to be. But sometimes it's scary, it's frightening. Joseph Campbell writes, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." I love that. Because we fear to enter that letting go. We fear to enter that cave that says that I have to release what I know and move into something that is unknown. I don't know who I will be when I am fully awakened. I had one friend of mine who used to say, I don't want to be too awakened quite yet, because I have this idea that if I'm fully awakened, then I'm done. And I'm not ready to be done yet. So I want to just, keep being sort of awake for now. Because we fear what that looks like. What does that look like for us when when our whole world falls apart? There's a beautiful book by, his name is Adyashanti, called can't remember the name of it. I will have to get back to you on that. But it's all about letting go of your whole idea of what life is. Having everything crumble around you so that you can rise up like the phoenix, so that you can rise up into a new way of being. And it can feel like a catastrophic failure of reality, like a seed, like a caterpillar. But if we truly seek that divine awakening within us, we really need to make friends with that cave, with the crucifixion, with the trials of fasting, as in Ramadan, or the Exodus. We have to make friends with that. We have to become comfortable with that. And then we learn to see that cave is holding a spiritual treasure for us that we've searched for our whole lives. Eric Butterworth wrote, "To be resurrected means to get out of the place where you are and get into a higher plane. To be resurrected doesn't mean strictly to come back to life from death, because that's not particularly relevant to most of us. The point is, it means to get on a higher level of consciousness." So this is all very reflective for me of the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell writes about the hero's journey, and through the whole biblical story of Jesus, of Yeshua, he is on this hero's journey of finding help, releasing help, finding teachers, releasing teachers, finding a greater way of being, and being more present for himself in the world, and then having to fight the inner battles of what that means for him and for the world, and then moving through that and moving through that and moving through that until finally it peaks at that crucifixion and resurrection, where he brings, as the hero's journey would say, the elixir of life to the people. This is the hero's journey, and this is the story that is told and retold in many different ways, through fiction and through all of our spiritual stories, our mythologies and our sacred texts. It's all about that hero's journey. So I'm going to ask you a question. What is your hero's journey? Where are you at in this for yourself? What are you letting go of for yourself? What are you releasing from your past and releasing from your belief system and releasing from your awareness? And sometimes it doesn't look pretty. I get that. Sometimes it means you're letting go of people that have been toxic to you, or of situations that have been toxic to you, or you're letting go of belief systems that have been harmful to you. You're letting go of what no longer serves so that you can move into something, and you have to be in trust and faith that that something is the rising of you. It's your resurrection into something greater, so that you can bring that something greater into the world. Because of course, the greatest gift that we give is ourselves to the world. The greatest gift to us is to be able to give that gift. This is who we are. Joseph Campbell writes, "The hero's path. We have not even to risk the adventure alone, for the heroes of all time have gone before us. The labyrinth is thoroughly known. We've only to follow the thread of the hero path. And where we had thought to find an abomination, we shall find a god. And where we had thought to slay another, we shall slay ourselves. And where we had thought to travel outwards, we shall come to the center of our own existence. And where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all the world. This is the human journey. We are each the hero. We are each the hero in our own journey, and we can either deny that and die a little on the inside, or we can let die what no longer serves, and we can move into the light and life of who we truly are. This is the power of the spiritual path. I'm going to share with you a poem I wrote. I wasn't sure if I would or not, but I brought it, and I think I feel like it's for today. So I wrote this 15 years ago. And I'm going to actually tell you the story of why I wrote this first. I was in a place with an uncomfortable sense in my relationship where I thought I needed to leave. I thought I needed to be done with it because it was more and more coming to that point where I realized that I wasn't being let in. I wasn't being let in the door. And so I kept feeling like I was circling around the periphery of this relationship, and I decided that I needed to leave. Now, in the end, after leaving, the lights went on and things came back together. And not only did they come back together, but they came back together with purpose, and they came back together with strength, and they came back together with a whole new lease on what this relationship was. And so it was a powerful thing to end it. And so this is what I wrote. It's in the endings where you shine, said the Great One, amidst the hushed oohs and ahs of the 100 billion. It's in the endings where the energy released in the breaking of the structure flashes so brightly as to blind the senses. And what you think is pain is only the brilliance of truth's ultimate appearance. It's in the endings where the surrender is so complete that you forget the bindings that limited you, and freedom expands outward with such force and speed as to decimate any lingering impression that you were ever meant to remain small. It's in the endings, in the deaths, in the breakings and the releases, that I see myself in you, and universes are born. This is the power of the crucifixion. This is the power of the resurrection that follows. So I have an affirmation for us for today. Please join with me if you choose. I let go of my only human smallness and allow myself to rise to the higher consciousness awakening within me. And so it is. Amen.